I mean, really, anyone who has the Victoria Cross in their flag is probably super racist against Aboriginal people. But
Fair enough, yeah.
oh, Canada, my home and native land.
Welcome back to a Sunday edition of Locked On Women's Basketball, a rare Sunday edition here for season 2, episode 5 of WNBA Retrospect, our annual summer scouting series breaking down the pre-draft film of WNBA legends. Today, we'll talk about Courtney Vandersloot, who was the number 3 overall pick in the 2011 draft out of Gonzaga.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are Locked On Women's Basketball. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Now through September 22, all FanDuel customers can get $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is Cruse. I'm your Saturday host covering the WNBA Draft and prospect scouting. I'm joined by my co-hosts M. Adler and Shafer. M covers the WNBA with a focus on player development and the game within the game. Lincoln also contributes to our WNBA Draft coverage here at the Next and Locked On Women's Basketball. Today we're talking about Courtney Vandersloot. You know Sloot as one of the greatest point guards in WNBA history, but also
One of
the greatest college point guards ever as well. 5'8" guard.
Point guard.
Huh?
The definition of a point guard.
The best point guard.
Yeah, we're gonna get into who is the best point guard in league history discourse at the end of the episode. Actually, no, we'll get into it in a couple weeks when we do Chelsea Gray. That'll be the last player we'll have to do. I think we'll have done all 5 at that point.
But Courtney Vandersloot, over her 4-year college career, 15.2 points, 8.2 assists to 3.6 turnovers per game. As a senior, have you seen her assist to turnover stuff as a senior in college?
Absurd. It's absurd.
It's pretty good, right?
As a senior, 49% assist rate to a 16% turnover rate.
What? Wait,
She had like
actually?
she
Wait,
had
actually?
3 times. She had 3 times as many as. I'm pretty sure she had more assists than everybody else on Gonzaga's team combined.
She also
That's so goofy.
Senior Courtney Vandersloot has one of the most absurd statistical profiles of all time. She has the highest assist per game season since 2003 at 10.2 assists per game, and is also scoring 20 points per game. On above average efficiency. She's scoring at a 58% true shooting percentage, while shooting 3 threes per game, getting to the rim with ease, getting to the free throw line. And the thing that with great point guards is they're going to put up their own numbers, but they're also going to be drivers of efficient offense. And there was literally no one better in the country that year at driving efficient offense than Courtney Vandersloot. That 2010-2011 Gonzaga team was second in the country in assists per game, second in turnover rate, first in assist to turnover ratio, third in field goal percentage, third in 2-point field goal percentage, third in scoring efficiency, first in points per game scoring, second in offensive rating, and also top 30 in the country in defense. And the only other player who played any WNBA on that whole team was forward Caitlin Redmond, who played 7 games in 2012 and scored 1 point per game.
I'm getting some Gabby Marshall, McKenna Warnock vibes here.
A little bit, yeah. So
basically, every week when it comes to playing cards, I'm just the boss baby tweet, but for Caitlin Clark's Iowa.
Yeah, and the efficiency numbers for her teammates after she leaves too change drastically. They're third in the country in scoring efficiency. After she leaves, they drop out of the top 15. Basically, all of those stats that I read out, they drop at least 10 spots the next season after she leaves. They go from being like the best offense in the country to not even top 15 in offense. they're still playing with a lot of pace, still scoring a lot. But the way that 21-year-old Courtney Vandersloot is manipulating college defenses is absurd. Sometimes we do these episodes where we go back and watch a player, and it really looks very different from what their eventual like prime in the WNBA looks like. This kind of looks like if you just took 2019 Courtney Vandersloot and dropped her into the WCC and let her go crazy. She has this computer in her brain that's always finding the best possible shot, and she's just creating layups for her teammates at an absurd rate. She's got so much playmaking volume. There's pull-up threes. There's rim scoring that is actually there and real. In their Elite Eight game against Stanford, she's actually drawing doubles on the perimeter. Like, just cold doubles outside the three-point line, because she scored 18 consecutive points for Gonzaga in the first half, to literally just the only force keeping them in the game. It's truly absurd that she's the best passer in the country and also drawing doubles on the perimeter from a Stanford team. She is the best player on the court.
A Stanford team that it is worth noting was a Final Four participant. Yes.
Yeah, and features both Aglumakes, two number one overall picks, and she's just the best player on the floor by a significant margin.
Yeah, well, when you started off talking about just a driver of efficient offense, we talk about this with point guards a lot, but with Sloot, real heavy emphasis on the driver there. You don't see point guards at this level be this level of driver, aside from, we talked about Waylon last week, obviously, but Waylon had that sort of nose for getting downhill, and Sloot maybe is even sort of more aggressive with that in a really good way. You don't see players again in this sort of mold where they are looking for the pass, but they're already doing it when they're just getting 3 feet, 5 feet from the rim. She's not an overwhelming sort of straight line first step athlete, but her lateral quickness and her ability to just change speeds on the drive and move through traffic is utterly unbelievable for a player of her stature, of her time, of her college. It stands out a lot, and especially of that positional archetype. And so it's almost something you have to adjust to at first, because I'm just not used to someone who is averaging 8 assists a game, doing it like by getting 5 feet from the rim and then spraying out, because it's just so much more efficient that way. It is funny that we're doing her back to back with Waylon in that sense, but I think you're looking at a lot of things that come from that. You want to look at the projectability of the jumper. You want to look at the quality of the last step finishing. You want to look at all these things. But the thing is, I think with what you're saying about the playmaking, it's rare that you run into a prospect like this where you're so sure of the highest level skills that you feel comfortable actually getting to nitpick those other things. Because the things that are usually consequential are now, obvious.
Yeah, she's just like the number one passer, playmaker, downhill creation of like shot creator, not for herself but for teammates. There's layups on every possession because she is creating them. And that's how you get a team that is taking quite a few like 18 to 22 foot 2-point jump shots and make them third in the country in scoring efficiency.
Right. It's not like Sloot didn't enjoy her fair share of like 20 footers.
She loved the elbow pull up.
It sucked, dude.
Transition.
It's so annoying.
It goes in. She's scoring at an efficient rate. She's making really quick decisions. And honestly, the defense, I feel better about her as a point of attack defender, projecting from her college tape, than I do about Waylon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you on that. It's not like Waylon was, a good defensive prospect. She was like a good enough off-ball defender for a high-level point guard. With Sloot, it's absolutely like, there are things not to love, I would say, as far as players mirroring in space. I would much rather have Sloot defending a guard in the open court than Waylon in that sense. Yeah. But, she fights. She's absolutely able to snake around screens. And that lateral quickness really shows up on defense in ways that I think you don't normally expect. And I think because of, and we'll get to this, her W level coaching later in her career, you might not think of what actually in this case does actually end up developing in the later years in Chicago.
And she has great hands. Her hands are incredible defensively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like you said, the mid-range ability, 44% on all dribble jumpers in the mid-range. As a driver, like you said, just she's not like some insane vertical athlete, but like the way she uses like head fakes, ball fakes, reverses, scoot finishes, some of the ways she would finish around those
Scoot finishes,
defenders.
more like salute finishes, am I right?
Well, and the little dump off pass was always such a threat that it's drawing defenders away from her at the rim, which is always helpful.
Yeah, she's good as hell. It's the best way I can put it.
There's no holes in her offensive game as a college player.
No.
There's nothing there to really be mad about. It's a perfect offensive point guard prospect.
So after the break, I want to talk a little bit about the player that went number 2 overall in this draft.
I mean,
unnamed
we don't
player.
want to talk about her, but
We
will.
don't, but we need to talk about her for this exercise. We'll also talk about Sloot's WNBA career as well.
Also, shout out Maya Moores.
Maya Moore's
As a player-
still?
Maya Moore.
As the playoffs wind down and the sports start sporting like I want them to, FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. In this draft, to kick off segment 2, we had, of course, Maya Moore going number 1.
Who?
Good
Number
player.
2, Liz Cambage went number 2 out of Australia. Then number 3 was Courtney Vandersloot. What was interesting I found was a lot of the mock drafts leading up to the draft, it wasn't like a debate between Salute or Cambage. It was more so like, would Salute actually go as high as 3? Like that was her ceiling in the draft. Some mock drafts had her at like 7, 5, like 6. It was interesting, like the conversation around that. And
Who went
From your-
4? John Tell?
from your perspective, Lincoln,
Okay.
why do you think teams were like so hesitant? Like to like, is it because she went to Gonzaga? Like why wasn't she like the
Probably.
easy 3rd prospect?
Everybody hates mid majors. I don't know.
Oh, was Amber Harris? Amber Harris went
Yeah,
4th
yeah.
in this draft?
Also a mid major. I don't know. 2011 is a different time in the WNBA.
I read that Tulsa wanted to get Salute.
They could have.
They
could
they
have.
had the second pick.
No,
Yeah,
they,
second
they,
pick.
they wanted her to
I
go
know,
to
seven.
they wanted to get her. They wanted to get Cambage, and then they wanted to get Salute to run
Yeah, that
their
would have been nice, wouldn't it?
40
Yeah,
minutes of
sure.
hell offense and defense.
The next year they ended up with Skylar Diggins-Smith, or 2 years later. What are you complaining about?
No, I don't know.
God,
Well,
that
that's like probably 3 coaches later by that point because they had 2 of the worst
Two
teams of all
interims.
time. So
Well, I mean, on the bright side, they finally got out of Tulsa and they relocated and they've achieved a level of stability and proper roster management and player development. That's certainly. Wait, what is
At
this?
first, I was confused. At first, I was.
Nope, that's the Stars. We're talking about the Stars now. Not the Shock. They continue to do this forever. They're still doing it right now.
to this day, yeah.
To this day, they're just repeating the Liz Cambage draft over and over again. Yeah. On that note, Lincoln, I'm sure, did the sort of background on that, but just watching Liz Cambage, you can see why she goes number 2 in this draft.
She's 6'8".
Right. Yeah, she's 6'8", and she flashes a lot of finesse to her game. She actually doesn't necessarily flash what you like exactly what you want out of a center to be sort of that, to be as much of a dominating scoring presence as she could have / should have been, at least in the WNBL, given her size. Again, she's 6'8" at 19 years old or whatever, and she has just for someone of that size, just really great burst and lateral quickness. She is so smooth attacking off the catch or attacking into the post. Her feel for off-ball movement, coming into maybe not off-ball movement, but her feel for being able to cut through the paint to get herself open is really good. There's holes in the game that, for the most part, for prospects I would usually attribute to age. Very questionable off-ball movement. Her post footwork largely is just atrocious. She settles a lot for some shots, back to the basket. But like, these are things that if, we talked about someone of her age, we would usually talk about being able to grow out of those things. And there are flashes of, the sorts of things we saw with Lauren Jackson. Not to make an Aussie comp, but the sorts of things that we saw, Lauren Jackson was the dominant back-to-back prospect and also a great shooter. But the sorts of things we saw where we wanted W coaches to use LJ Moore as a driver, Liz flashes at times sort of that ability that, I think really tends to be a difference maker when it comes to centers. It's one of the reasons why like Asia was like not a soft 8, but like a hard 8 as a prospect, because that insane driving game that kept getting better. And again, you see these flashes that keep getting better all the way with her on offense. And I think that's where you just look and you're like, okay, this is where it's coming from. I think on the other hand, you end up with some very strong questions defensively in the ways that I think don't often get better with age, or at least take a high level of coaching. I'm interested in y'all's opinion on that. But either way, I'll just say that it's not surprising that she was as good of, and maybe as in some cases limited of, a W player she turned out to be, given what at least I was seeing.
Yeah, well, she's quoted as saying that she didn't really want to play in Tulsa, which played out.
Yeah, who among us?
Went there, hung out for a little bit, and then was like, this actually kind of sucks. And
yeah, who among us?
Several years. I've been to Tulsa. It's something.
Some of my best friends had to spend three months there working. They did not like it either.
The interesting thing is that this was one of the cases for Sloot, this is one of the cases of a hot NCAA tournament showing what a player could be actually working out. She wasn't as high as even number 5 on most draft boards until her tournament run to the Elite 8 with that Gonzaga team. Teams liked Harris and Lavender, because it's a bigs league. Who cares about point guards? But, with Liz, what a weird player. I don't know. Like, she goes back and forth from being like the most dominant offensive player you've ever seen to looking like she doesn't want to be there. And usually she doesn't want to be there.
And you can see at times, and again, I think we as a trio are getting better at seeing this sort of game to game, because these are things that we've become aware are actually important in the ways that we didn't look at originally. You can see in these games where later temperament issues actually come from, and you can see that she does have an issue keeping her lid on and keeping level throughout the game. It's the best sort of like modern equivalent I would put on it is like if you watched like Nikola Jokic before like 2021 probably, where like if he got like a string of like 2 or 3 maybe like annoying calls in a row or no calls in a row, that would result in him taking like an intentional foul in the backcourt like once or twice in a row. It would result in an aggressive shove, and it was usually nothing too bad. But it's not what you want to see out of, again, your star to have that level of temperament. And with Liz, it's younger, and also it's not a little. It's more fiery. It's something you don't want to show up, and it's something that I think should be raising more questions than I think any of us could have reasonable faith in Tulsa actually doing their due diligence on answering.
But that's what Tulsa wants.
Well, Nolan Richardson also said...
they're putting the hell in 40 minutes of hell.
Nolan Richardson said, I'm not letting her change my draft decision. She's too talented. There's too much upside. But, I don't think Jokic has ever punched anyone or called someone a slur on a basketball court. So there's some differences.
Well, he's Serbian.
That's fair. That's
so he's Serbian and is playing in your own league.
For a Serb. Never mind, I can't say that.
God, our ratings in Serbia are just going all the way down right now.
Consequentially, going way up in Kosovo. Weird. Go to ad break, Hunter, please.
Before we go to the ad break, one thing I read was that Gino Auriemma compared Liz to Brittany Griner.
Does that count as racism?
That doesn't make any sense. They're both just tall. They don't play anything alike.
That's what Gino said. He said he coached against both of them, and that was his comp.
Okay. Which is weird because the comp that comes to mind is just like, what if Tina Charles was like 6 inches taller? Tina Charles just played for never at that point. Just played.
Without a post fade, nice little post fade.
Was he going? Was he go? Has he been going senile for a decade now?
Plausible.
Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba.
I would like to be clear that Gino is not going senile. That was a joke. He's a nice man and a good coach.
I have a fun what if. If Sloot was like 10% worse.
Oh, I was going to ask you. Does she end up in Minnesota?
Does she end up in Los Angeles?
It's one of those two, right?
Yes,
That's
it's
the
either
answer.
Minnesota or Los Angeles. Yes. So she either plays with Maya Moore or with Candace Parker and Teach Penichero. Ooh.
I don't think that counts. I don't think I've watched 34-year-old Teacher in LA. Trust me, nothing to write home about. I mean, no offense, but it's nothing to write home about.
You might see
It's
some
an
fun
interesting-
passes.
Yeah. Put Teacher, Courtney Vandersloot, and Candace Parker on the same court, and someone is getting a layup every possession.
I mean, I guess that's fair. So, well, here's the thing.
Probably not Tisha though.
God damn it. Okay, so here's the thing. LA finishes 3 games out of the playoffs in 2012. They are the 4th seed. 2012 is the lottery where the results are the perfect inverse of the lottery odds.
Mm-hmm.
Does LA make up 3 games on San Antonio in 2011 if they have rookie Sloot? I'm tempted to say no.
Yeah, that is fair enough. I don't think they
So
would.
reasonably they end up still with NECA, but in this case
With
also
Candace
with
Parker, Courtney Vandersloot, and Nika Grumke.
minus Jonta Lavender. Big loss.
Oh no.
Well, to be fair, she didn't start.
Yeah.
She's pretty good, but like, yeah, Sloot. Like, I think I talked about this last time where NECA. I talked about this last summer. NECA was the first prospect, the first big prospect in league history where it took a couple years to get into what we could reasonably call some like approximation of her prime. Like Maya hits the ground. Maya is an MVP candidate the first year she's there. Tina Charles is largely the same player. She's always going to be year 1. She makes a leap. She makes a somewhat unexpected leap in year 3, but I wouldn't say it was anything like huge on that count. Angel McCautry, mostly the same player. Candace obviously wins MVP. Syl is largely the same player, just has a little bit of foul trouble. But Neck is the first player who it really takes a couple years to make that adjustment to the speed of the game, and then that basically doesn't unhappen. I think it happens. I would strongly argue with BG, and it happens with Sky. It happens in, I forget who was drafted in 2014. Jewel takes Jewel's 2015. She takes like 2 or 3 years. This happens even with Stewie. She's 70% of the player she is in her,
Still a star though. She was like still like all defense as a
I'd
rookie.
say that
exactly, and I would say Sloot in this context is almost the canary in the coal mine.
Oh yeah,
if she was drafted in the West, she's certainly not an all-star her rookie season,
Mhm.
which she is in the East because it's the East in 2011.
do you know what she averaged
This
over
is
her final
actually-
15 games of her rookie season?
I don't.
Probably bad.
4 points, 3 assists on 27% from the field, 17% from 3.
Yeah, that's not quite what you're looking for.
To be fair, it was 2011 Chicago.
Yeah.
Which is
And she was good in the first half of the season, good enough to be an all-star.
well, yeah. I mean, honestly, never mind.
It shows that even if
I'm
someone's
not
a
going
bad
to talk
rookie,
about historical Eastern All Stars.
This isn't even the worst historical Eastern Conference All-Star game. You get
2017.
Crystal Langhorne, Sylvia Fowles, Renee Montgomery, and Courtney Vandersloot coming off the bench.
That's fine. It works. It's
Pretty
fine.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I ever said it, but my grade watching Sloot was a soft 70 grade. This is an all WNBA caliber point guard to me.
Yeah, I mean, I have questions about the mid-range pull-up jumper just because of the stability along the y-axis, but it's good enough on the x. It's good enough on the rotation of the shoulders that at least for this position, I'm fine with it. Again, we've talked about this in so many weeks. We have not had an all-star level point guard prospect to this point since 2004. I'm perfectly fine throwing at least a 7 on it, even if I think the decel is actively bad. I think she's good at adjusting to finishes, but the decel is actively bad. And with my question about the mid-range jumper, I'm not comfortable calling it an outright 8. But I can be talked into a hard 7 given positional value.
Positional deficit. Yeah, Danielle Robinson goes 7th in this draft, I think.
6th?
And 6th in this draft, yeah. And,
to be fair, she was a very solid prospect defensively.
Yeah, definitely. And just becomes a very serviceable point guard. So
we will be talking next week about a point guard who goes number 12.
Woo!
Go Duke.
We love point guards.
What is this Salute skill set grade-wise in 2024, do you think?
Same grade to me.
Yeah.
Think it's a 7?
I think it changes too much. The playmaking volume is still there.
It's insane.
It's hard to ignore 10 assists per game for a full season on a team that goes 31-4.
Yeah, I'm already baking into my grade my questions about finishing and my questions about what happens if the score isn't necessarily there. But it's not we're going to have a different discussion about what our replacement level point guard is in the W in 2028 when these classes that we're looking at come in. It's not the same now that it was in 2011. You can't talk me today into taking the skill set to an 8. You can talk me into that in 2011 because you just don't have it. Crap. Who was you still have Dominique Canny basically starting for Chicago 2 years earlier, point guard, and doing a very solid job despite being in her 30s, not being a very good point guard. But that's just what the league was. She was very good for her skill set at that point. The league just had such a dearth. Anyway, what were your grades on Liz?
I don't know if I have enough to get a Liz grade. I'm scared to give one.
Yeah, a 6 maybe. 6
Yeah.
is
I have, so I'll contrast her with Tina Charles again. These are in terms of the score first. I have questions about other things. I have questions about projections with it. I talked about this before. I'm not going to get into it again. Liz, hard 6 for me, just given what I talked about in terms of adjusting for age. The defensive questions I think are so big for me, and it's so consequential if you can't do that at center in sort of the late 2010s Brittany Griner way. That
again, in the mold of today's Dallas Wings.
Yes. So for that reason, I'm not going to get higher than a hard 6, but if we're talking positional value and the fact that you basically need a center that good back then, again, I can be talked into a soft 7. The same way, again, I have Tina Charles a half grade higher in 2010 than I do in 2024. And I think, again, we're talking about positional, not viability. And, the ability to be a standout rim protector just actually wasn't as important back then. You had to defend the post more than you had to defend the rim.
Yeah. But still, though, a bad defensive 5 as your main player
is rough.
You don't win. You don't win with that. You're not it's the Tina Charles problem. You're not going to win games that way. You might win regular season games, but postseason wise, that's the main question with Liz. Even back to her pre-W film, you can kind of see a little bit of that. Not that it mattered in the W though, because she played for Tulsa and then Dallas.
And to be clear, yeah, and I guess using that note as a jumping off, so we've been over enough wins above replacement here that I think I can just ask you guys to guess how many wins above replacement these players have. So Lindsay Whalen ends her career with 27.5 wins above replacement. Penny Taylor, 29. Katie Douglas, 36.5. Other examples, Sancho Little, 21 wins. Rebecca Brunson, 41. These are on huge win teams. So Courtney Vandersloot spends most of her career on middling teams. I'm going to ask you, how many wins above replacement do you think she ends up with? Again, Becky ends up with 27, Lindsay 27.5.
Probably 32.
Hunter?
I was going to say more than all of those players. Just
more than all of them, but Brunson. She ends up with coming into the 2024 WNBA season, Courtney Vandersloot, to her name, had 35 career wins above replacement. This game age played about, I think, 5 W seasons. How many wins above replacement did she accrue?
15.
10.
Oof.
That makes sense.
And to be clear, there are some very good seasons in there, but the issue for her is, we've talked about how the league starts, changing. And for her, she never changed as a player. So the deficiencies become more important, and the strengths, as league-wide offensive efficiency grows, the strengths, they just stay stagnant. So the league kind of passes her by. And you get this inflection point around 2019 is basically the last time she is a viable, I would say a viable, deserving, all-star borderline all-W player. And then you have the inflection point, and you get to 21, and they get iced in the playoffs by Phoenix. Phoenix is on a heater, but they get iced by them. Real bad. She cannot hold up to
Best player in the world, Brittany Griner.
Shout out to best player in the world in that series, Kia Nurse, before she got hurt. But what you end up with is a player who basically, again, stays at the same level while the league passes her by, and you see that trend happening almost in reverse with Sloot, where we talk about her adjustment. She makes a minor leap, I would say, I think in 2014, 15. Don't quote me on that. And then she makes a second leap in 2017. Which, again, we're talking about outlier development, as we usually do in this summer series. Sloot is absolutely outlier development, and that she comes in as a 7, but she makes 2 distinctive leaps, where players normally get 1. And the second one is she finishes top 5 in MVP 5 years in a row, right? It's something like that.
Quickly bump.
Exactly.
Her life partner, and he gave her a boost.
Who among us?
Exactly.
To that end, Sloot. The grade for a career is an 8. I would say.
Best point guard in the league for close to a decade.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I would say the point in time at which you could argue Chelsea started getting better was 22.
Yeah,
and maybe
in 20
and maybe in 2019, but not otherwise. And so on that, I'm curious, what grade would you, or not what grade? Do you guys have any comps for Sloot or Liz?
Ooh.
I have one for Sloot that stood out to me. I do not have one for Liz.
Liz is almost Yao Ming. If he was worse at everything.
That's not what would have come to mind, but I like it.
Tierra McCowan.
Yeah.
What if Tierra McCowan could move side to side?
Oy.
Anyway, the comp I had to mind with Sloot was what if Steve Nash was just a perfectly fine shooter?
Yeah, that feels right.
Turns out that's a good player.
Very good player, yeah.
very, very good player. Should not be any worse on anyone's list than the 3rd best point guard of all time. And I think I had her 2nd.
Yeah,
I'll probably have Chelsea higher.
Reasonable.
I'll probably Chelsea. I feel on my list can leapfrog her within a couple of years, but probably a tie for 2nd at this point.
Very good basketball player.
So good. It's crazy. Just listeners, if you have time, pull up some 2017 Chicago film. That team sucked. That team was terrible, but that is maybe the best season of Sloot's career. It's insane what she does with that roster. She has I believe a 45% assist rate in the WNBA with those teammates.
She just is an efficient offense by herself.
Yes.
Is Olivia Miles a bad comp?
Yes.
In my can't shoot it all.
Just thinking as far as who's the closest prospect to Sloot that we have.
I get what you're saying, but she can't shoot, and Liv, in my mind, is definitely a better defender. At least.
Yeah. But just look at the college profile though. I guess Sloot made 27% of.
The closer comp is what if Caitlin didn't have a turbo button?
But Caitlin can make for all these players. You just throw Caitlin Clark on.
Yeah. The thing with Caitlin is she's essentially a perfect point guard prospect. Aside from Paige's ability to play defense, Caitlin is good enough defensively that you can basically just take her and be minus skill X and skill Y, and that's any other point guard.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's a good. that is a good one. Who was the closest?
I've got nothing.
Charlie Fletcher Walker?
I thought you were going to say Kimora Johnson. That's what I thought you were going to say.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Kimora's not
Lots
bad.
lots of fun guards on the way.
If Kimura was like 20% better.
Yeah.
Okay, I will take if Kimura was 20% better, or like if Shirley Fletcher Walker was like fast.
But yeah, we'll be back next week for another WNBA retrospect. We're getting closer to
Let's go Duke.
modern day again.
Who
Too
are we doing
bad
next
we had
week, Connor? Let's go Duke. Let's go Duke.
Chelsea Gray, who
No,
Phil-
Justin Thomas, the other Duke.
we're not doing. Are we doing Chelsea Gray too? Aren't we doing
Yeah,
Chelsea Gray too?
Eventually.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the 2015.
Jasmine Thomas, and then we got Chelsea Gray, Duke point
No,
guards.
and then we have Tip Hayes.
Ooh,
Then we
yeah.
have, I'm just saying we have the Duke point guards we have.
Hayes, who won one quarter of her last game, really drops her in the draft.
Tip Hayes was selected behind someone that never played in a WNBA game.
Tip Hayes was drafted behind multiple players who never played.
Zero war.
No, dude, that's multiple players.
Multiple. There was the exact one person though in front of her.
Oh,
I
gosh.
remember. Yeah, just crazy.
God, I can't wait to.
One quarter of her
I can't.
last
I can't
Sunday
wait to
game.
do Sammy P, Kate Kane, Natalie
Wow.
Novas,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Natalie Novosil discourse when it
Shout out
comes
to
to
Kate Kane. Wow, block machine,
mid-range merchant.
mid-range killer. Her 12-foot jump shot was not to be played with. Could she score at the rim? Absolutely not.
No.
Could she score outside of the free throw line?
No.
Absolutely not. Was
Was
she doing
she-
anything but blocking shots and hitting 12-footers? Not really, but she did those two things at a very high level.
For someone who was 6'5", she sure looked like it.
All right.
That was
Happy Sunday,
20 minutes
folks.
of complete nonsense. That's what you can expect from us.
That's our Sunday promise. This is like Thursday.